We are, we're live. So thanks, Joe, for coming on to the podcast here. This is, for people who don't know, this is Joe, who have a YouTube channel called China Cycling. And I came across you, Joe, last year when I was getting my feet wet on Chinese carbon OEM product stuff with the Cookie Man sagas. And I came across your channel and I was like, oh, this is all interesting stuff. And so let's hear about you, Joe. You're living in China. You're an expat. You have a Chinese lady and you got Chinese children, and you're teaching English there, and you're cycling not like me. And so, how did you end up in China? You're from England originally, yeah?
Yeah. So originally from England, and back in England, I wasn't even a cyclist, but I've been in China for like 10 years now, whatever.
Wow.
So back in England, I was a car guy and loved taking cars apart, putting them back together, all that stuff. But when I came to China, no Chinese driving license. So one of my other expats friends, he got me into bikes.
Yeah.
And so like that was the closest thing, you can take them apart, you can put them back together. It's got wheels and all that stuff. But so he got me into bikes, and I was hooked. And one thing about it, because I got into bikes like in China, not in the West, it meant I didn't have the mentality that maybe lots of riders in the West have, that like all of these top brands are on this pedestal, and you've got to believe in the shrine of exactly. We'll go for that. And it wasn't about what you're riding on the cafe ride or whatever. It wasn't about what you're wearing. It was just about riding a bike. It was a lot more pure or whatever. And so came to China, got more and more into cycling, and then realized the Chinese equivalent of like eBay or whatever is called Taobao.
Yes.
And on there, it's like eBay on steroids. There's more of everything, but for better and worse as well. Like there's more of the fake stuff.
Yeah.
There's more of the cheap legit stuff, and then there's more of, and then you start getting to the dirty dark corners of like the stuff that apparently comes out the same factories as the big brand stuff. That's when they're super cheap. And so I start going down this rabbit hole, and then, like I say, I don't really have the perspective of what is and isn't available in the West.
Yes.
But then as soon as I start going on websites and YouTube and stuff, you see that it's a totally different world, and you're like, huh. So this is interesting. And then so I start sharing with my friends who I know who cycle back home. Yeah. I start sharing with them some of this stuff that you find over here, and their minds are being blown. They're like, what? Like, so I'm gonna say. We'll say there's like 3 different kinds of products that come out of China. First of all, you get like just your trash. Like it's just made to be as cheap as it can.
Yes.
And it's just it's not very good. Every country has trash. I'm not saying it's because it's Chinese or anything. It's just trash. Number 2, we'll say we've got like your fake stuff and your knockoff stuff. They're trying to sell it off as the real thing. Like a zip wheel with Novatec hubs in it. You're like, hey, something's not quite right there.
Yeah.
And then, but then I'll go for number 3, which is like your original product Chinese stuff that no one's ever heard of in the West, or not really heard of in the West. And for example, I'll just go for the static trainers, for turbo trainers, like the Gravatt by a company called Magine. Like that was my first video that I did, because I saw that and it looked really good, and it was like a third of the price of a Wahoo kicker, and it looked as good as, or if not better than, a Wahoo kicker. So I thought, maybe this is something people want to see. So I made a video comparing the Magine Gravatt trainer to a first gen Wahoo kicker, and the Magine was like quieter, it was more accurate, and it was a third of the price.
Wow.
And so that video started to get some interest and stuff. And when that video started to get interest, I was like, okay, so people are interested in seeing this stuff. So then I started to go more in the direction of trying to find this stuff that people in the West maybe don't know exists.
Yes.
And just trying to show it to people, and people get a kick out of it. So
yeah, right. Yeah, you've done well, man. It's YouTube's a whole nother world as well. It's almost, you have 3 worlds. You have social media, you have China, and you have the Western world. It's like all 3 different worlds.
Yes, and so, like I say, I got into cycling like in this bubble of existence. Like, I guess most people, when they start cycling in the West, they join the local group ride or whatever, and they get information from there. But for me, I had none of that. So I'm just going on YouTube. And of course, anyone who searches for bike stuff on YouTube, within a few days, you're going to get a recommendation of a video from a guy called Durianrider, and you go, oh, okay, I'll watch this guy's videos. Yeah. And so that was like, it must have been like 5-6 years ago, whatever. Like, I'm like, I'll start watching some Durianrider videos, and then I start seeing from your angle that the difference that exists between the Western like marketing, drinking the Kool-Aid, like
Yeah.
Whatever vision you want to call that of a world vision, and what I had. And so going through Durianrider education of what's legit and what's not legit. Gave me more inspiration to kind of look for these differences.
Yeah, it's amazing that how we can educate each other, just from YouTube, social media. It's nuts. It's just, we live in such an amazing world right now. The speed of information, it's so cool. So cool. We can
it's crazy.
We can learn so much from people so quickly.
Yeah, it's crazy. But still, like, all of the big marketing departments of the big companies, and I'm not here to bash any big companies or whatever. Like, everyone who knows me knows I ride a Specialized too. I think you ride a Specialized. I ride anything, so I'm not here. I'm not here to bash anyone. But yeah, their marketing departments are just crazy. Like,
yeah, I think Specialized have the best marketing on. They've even, I remember buying their tires back in 1994, and I think they've had the best marketing every day since then. Like, they know how to engage emotion, and they do put out some good product. They put out some shit product as well, but they always looking for the edges and stuff like that. But I think now in 2020, it's like the bikes were so good 5 years ago. Now they're sort of getting worse. Like, it's just, it's like they've gotten so good. Like, you can't go better, you just have to go different. And it's interesting stuff. What so a bit about you. So you're living in China, and I always call it Xiamen, that town you're living in. But it's Xiamen.
Yeah. So I'm sure some people out there will criticize my Chinese pronunciation, but yeah, it's pronounced Xiamen, like Xiamen.
Because you speak fluent Mandarin now, don't you?
I'd say
much?
it's fluent. Like, like have to be modest, and also the thing about China is there are so many dialects and accents and stuff. Like, you can be fluent in a city, and then you go like 100 kilometers to another city, and you don't understand anyone, and no one understands you. So it's pretty crazy.
And they all speak in Mandarin.
Yeah. So you're supposed to have like standard Mandarin, which kids are all taught in school these days. But back in the day, like especially like Cultural Revolution or before Cultural Revolution times, everyone was speaking their own dialects. So when I'm cycling out in the countryside and I go to a small like shop that's run by some 70-year-old dude, and I'm trying to buy some water.
Yes.
Like sometimes I go from being fluent in Chinese to being like back to basics, like
that's interesting.
Using your fingers to try to buy stuff. So.
Yeah. Wow.
The Chinese in general, like super friendly.
Aren't they? Yeah, they are. They are.
Yeah, like when I'm riding out in the countryside, and again I go to a shop, like I just said, like usually the boss, he'll ask me like, "Wow, are you a real foreigner?" Like, he's probably never seen a foreigner. I'm like, "Yeah, I'm a real foreigner." He's like, "Wow,
that's crazy."
He's like, "You're the first foreigner to ever come to my shop. Like, sit down, like drink some water."
Yeah,
like,
that's the bicycle life, isn't it?
Definitely
life.
Get to meet some cool people.
The bike is the transformation tool. It's insane, man, and I can't wait to go to China. I'm keen to come over there and ride some of those mountains, and maybe hopefully visit some of the factories and do some vids. It's
like down here in Xiamen, it's definitely like the capital for carbon in China.
Really, yeah, I see a lot of factories there. A lot of factories. There's like wind space. So they got a factory there, or.
Yep. That was the first factory I went in.
Yeah, wow. And so they make a lot of frames for themselves or other brands, or I guess
both.
You can't really talk about that too much, maybe, but yeah.
I can. Most of it you can talk about, like.
Yeah, I guess.
So yeah, they do. They do their own frames, but they also do OEM stuff.
Yeah, well, so OEM, for people who don't know, is a original equipment manufacturer. So a company in China, a factory where they'll make frames for various other brands, like Specialized or Trek or Canyon or whoever, and then they'll ship that to often Taiwan or whatever for painting assembly because of less punitive tariffs. I'm pretty sure, and then they generally the bikes might be made in China, the frame, but then they'll have the made in Taiwan sticker because all the parts and paint and stickers were put on there. So do you find that to be true?
Yeah. So it depends on the brand, like you say. Some brands try to hide it a lot better than other brands do. Yeah. I think, again, I don't like I don't really like it. So it's really ironic. My channel is called China Cycling, but I actually hate pigeonholing like a company or a product by where it's from. But I'm gonna say like I think the Italian companies are probably the worst for trying to hide that they're from China. Like, and I'm sure there are some Italian brands who don't, but in my opinion, like. Yeah, Pinarello and Villa, like they're two of the worst for trying to hide where their stuff comes from.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I have a few debates with a few riders out there. Like, my F12 was made in Italy, and I was like, well, unless there's a village in Italy, I don't know if it's in China. But I guess it doesn't matter because they're quality. They're making good bikes. The Chinese are making incredible bikes. I would say. What percent would you say of the top-end carbon frames are now made in China, like originally from China and shipped maybe to Taiwan for assembly, etc.?
I'd say like the frame actually made in China, top-end bikes, I'd say above 80%, probably closer to 90%.
I heard the CEO from Factor, I'm not sure if you saw that video. Did you see that video Cycling Maven put up? I think it was Cycling Maven put up. Because I went to his channel.
It was Rob, I think the guy's name
Rob. Yeah, he was a pretty cool guy. Like, but I think the video's been taken down. I'll have to ask Mark what the deal is, but I'm pretty sure he said something like 99% or 98% coming out of China now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
like and the Factor factory is also in Xiamen, like super close to here.
Yeah, and then they ship to Taiwan for assembly and less taxes or something. I hear.
Yep,
that's what I'm hearing. But yeah, they're making some amazing product out there. It is. I just find this whole, being a bike geek like yourself, just I find it's really interesting how it's so hidden, and just some of the people's reactions when they find out their bike's made in China, they're almost like ashamed, but it's not to be ashamed. I mean, there was a big markup there, but there's still quality product.
Yeah, and it even goes deeper than that. So, like, you'll bring it out with someone, and then, they'll finally research it, and they'll be like, okay, yeah, my frame is made in China, but it was designed by an Italian guy. But also, lots of the Italian, and again, I'm not just picking on the Italian guys. It's just it's the example I know the best for reasons I can't say, but it's the example I know the best. Lots of these companies, like the engineers in the companies, they go to the Chinese factories and ask the engineers in the Chinese factories for advice. Like,
that's right.
They're like, oh, this is what we want to do. Can we do it? And the Chinese engineers will go, well, why don't you do it like this instead? This is a better way of doing it. And they'll be like, oh yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
And so, even the guy who thinks, oh yeah, my Italian bike is made in China, but it was designed in Italy. Again, probably not. But again, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
Nah. Yeah.
Who cares where your bike's made or who designed it? As long as it's the best bike you can get for your money. Yeah, exactly.
And as long as you like it and it does its job for you. That's true, yeah. I mean, the Chinese, the Asian carbon is just, they got such a deep level of experience. Fast Sports, Fast Sports?
Yeah.
They sent me out some wheels recently, and they were amazing. I mean, I've got Envies, I've got Zips and Lightweights and Violas and a lot of wheels, Shimano, etc. And these Fast Sports, they roll so nice, they're amazing. And the braking surface as well, it's got lots of little grooves in it. It worked incredible. So I was really, really impressed. I was like, man, once you ride some of this product, you never almost ride brand name stuff again, because you'd be like, why would I pay so much money, for that?
It's mental. Like you say, Fast Sports, they're doing good wheels. Like I put a review up like 2 weeks ago, whatever, of a Windspace pair of wheels with like carbon spokes and carbon rims, but they're not bonded like the lightweight ones are. They're actually, you can still adjust them and take them off and stuff.
That's good.
And yeah, like you say, when you see it or when you hear of it, you're like, this can't be good. But if you get on it with zero prejudice and ride it, you're like, this is crazy. Like you say.
Yeah.
I think we've both ridden a fair share of bikes from every country's manufacturers, and it's as good as or as better than any of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just nuts. I got a brand new Specialized S-Works Epic 2 years ago, and it was just I was going to sneeze for a second. Hang on. The bike's making me sneeze. Bit of carbon dust. Actually, I think it's gone. So I got this brand new Epic.
Coronavirus, man.
Corona's come to Adelaide.
It's gone through the computer.
What was that drink bottle you just had then? Was that?
It's a Namid Sport.
Yeah, I thought it was the same one I had. I was going to say that'd be trippy. No, it wasn't. I just saw that corner of my eye. It's what was I saying? Yeah, so I bought this Specialized Epic S-Works, and I've been a big fan of the Epic. I've had My first one I got in 2003, and so and then I got this new Epic for us. It's gonna be a ripper, and I rode it, and I was like, suspension the first day just blew out. Sent back almost 4 or 5 times, and Specialized has been great. It keeps sending me out new shocks and fixing it, but the problems are still there. And so just and this is like a $12,500 retail bike, and so just understanding that, this is the biggest company out there in terms of marketing and PR and testing and stuff like that, but they've just produced such a dud bike, like absolute dud. And talking with other riders as well who own the same bike, and on the forums, people just like, this is just dud. So it just goes to show that the latest isn't the greatest. So that changed my whole reality, that Specialized S-Works Epic, all the marketing hype, this is the fastest country bike ever. And I just blindly believed that because I'd had such a good run with Specialized product before. So yeah, this is going to rip. I remember riding, I was like, suspension, what's going on? I was going to put some air in it. Put air in it, still dud. And then, but that just blew my confidence out the water of like, marketing does not mean anything in 2020. It doesn't mean, it's just nonsense.
Yeah, and I think, like you say, so Specialized, they got a great design team as well as a marketing team, respect. But their design team is literally the other side of the world to their factories.
Yeah.
And so you can send a few guys over to be on the ground or whatever, but the back and forth is going to be so delayed. The communication is not going to be good. They're speaking different languages, literally. Yeah. So, but these Chinese companies, the thing I always say to people, the reason the Chinese brands are so good is either they have their own factory or the relationship they have with the factory. Their kids are going to school with the kids of the factory's boss. So the relationships are just on another level.
That's true.
And in business, everything's about relationship.
100%.
The guy in the factory, he's got to put he's got to choose which workers go on the best shifts or which shift gets to make which bike. The guy who he's best friends with and goes drinking with, he's going to be like, yo, put my bikes on the best shift.
Yeah.
The guy who's halfway around the world and comes over every so often to check on him is going to be like, whatever, just make it good enough is all right.
Yeah, that's so true. It's I think the future is China. My perception is China's going to sell more factory direct to people. The big brands will get tanked out, and then China will just create their own brands and just they'll flick Trek and Specialized, etc. I reckon that'll happen eventually. Once public get wind of how much markup is in some of these bikes and stuff like that. I think that will change, especially with pro sport, and it's going towards more bike packing and gravel racing and things like that. And I think this year, unfortunately, my hunch is the Tour de France and the Giro will be cancelled because of Corona. That's my little my hunch. I hope it doesn't. I hope it's not true, but it just feels like that with the media right now. It's going crazy in Australia. You walk into a supermarket, all the toilet paper's gone every time. It's literally nuts. People are just, the waves hitting us, the hype, and that
was here 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, well,
it was pretty funny. So coronavirus hit here, and then a bunch of people in Japan and Korea were selling face masks to people in China at raised prices.
Yeah,
but now they sold all the masks in Korea and Japan, and now coronavirus hit those places, and they don't have any masks for themselves. So it's all and now in China, people are selling them back to them at even more than they sold originally. So it's all crazy. It's all going a bit weird. But yeah, I think you're right about the tour being cancelled.
Yeah, I hope it doesn't happen.
But we'll see.
But
I hope so too.
And that will just cause a massive finance loss for a lot of the brands. Because the tour is just like the launching product of product, It's a launch date. The new Tarmac's coming out. I heard the new Duracer's coming out.
Yep.
And so just these new bikes coming out. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough for the bike industry. Let's talk about living in China. So what's it like with visas and stuff? How long is it? 30-day visa or 90-day or for English?
So it depends what you're doing. So in the past, I was doing English teaching, like you said. These days, I'm not doing that anymore. But so because I've been in China for 5 years, if you're in China for 5 years or above, you can apply for permanent residence, which is essentially a Chinese green card or whatever.
Yeah, that's cool.
But usually, if you're working here, however long your contract is however long a visa they'll give you. And usually you just need to be have a bachelor's degree or above. and some experience in whatever field you want to go into. So most expats come to China to do English teaching. I did that for a long time too. I think it's a great way to see the country, and like you get so much off time. On average, you're just teaching for like 15 hours a week or 20 hours a week. So if you want to get into shape and do a real training, like hardcore 40-hour a week on the bike, it's a good gig.
Yeah, well, where would you recommend where you're living now?
Yeah, I definitely say stay near the coast just for the better air quality, because that's the one thing about China. The air quality is not good in general.
Yeah, well, so you got like how far are you from the beach right now?
Like I've got a beach about 10 k's away, 10 kilometers away.
And what about mountain climb?
I've literally got a mountain. If it wasn't pitch black behind me, you'd be able to see it. Like I've got a really nice climb, a whole mountain range just out my back window. So
How far from your front door to the start of the climb is it, you reckon, kilometer wise?
If I want to go to the big mountains, probably like less than 10k. But there's a small like 300-meter climb, like less than a k away.
Oh yeah, cool, very good.
Yeah.
So that's a good spot. It's a good warm up to get to the climb and warm up to the beach. And traffic?
Yeah.
Chaos?
Yeah, I'd say chaos, but the system works, but you have to get into the thinking of how it works. Like I'm not saying better or worse, but it's probably worse different. If I am saying. Yeah, we'll go for different. That's a good one. But yeah, like when most people are driving or riding in China, you don't pay attention to what's behind you. Like that's not your problem. So right. If I'm changing lanes, you don't look in the mirror. So the advantage is that if I'm riding or whatever, then I don't have to look behind me either, and I only have to look forwards. So you have twice the attention to look forwards to see when someone cuts across your lane.
Same in Thailand.
Yeah. But here where I am in Xiamen, actually, the roads aren't set up very well for bikes, which is actually how I ended up breaking my leg.
Yeah, tell us about that. You had when was that? That time goes quick.
Yeah, like September, last September. Yeah.
So what happened? Yeah. Tell us what happened.
Yeah, so they have like storm drains that go across the road, but it's kind of like a cattle grid. But how a cattle grid would have like horizontal gaps, the gaps on this were vertical. Oof. And like, I measured it afterwards with my lawyer, and like 4 centimeter gaps between the little metal bars, which 23 mil, 25 mil, 28 mil tires, gravel like cyclocross tires, you're still going in there. So what happened? I'm riding along, and one of them caught my front wheel, and I buckarooed off, and like I was doing kind of like an extended endo for a while just on the front wheel, and then hit the dirt, and I was all right, like a bit shocked, but just some road rash. But then they use water trucks here, like giant trucks full of water for like watering flower beds when there's no rain and stuff. I happened to fall just underneath a parked water truck, but literally the same second that I fell under it set off and rode onto my foot.
That's crazy.
Like crushing my leg under.
That's crazy. Oh man.
And so man, like I mean, you can say it's bad luck, but if it was my head, I'd be dead.
Good luck and bad luck.
I feel lucky. But he hears me screaming and shouting as you would, and luckily. This is why you want to be fluent in Chinese, because I shout in Chinese like reverse, reverse, reverse. Yeah. And like within 5 seconds he reverses and gets off me. But those 5 seconds felt like a very long time. And literally I'm looking at the whole truck, and the rear wheel of the truck is just on my foot. Like not on the ground at all. And I can see on the side of the truck that it says like maximum capacity, like 20,000 liters. So in that 5 seconds, I'm doing the math like, that's about 20 tons. It's got 4 wheels, so I got about 5 tons. Yeah. And these 5 seconds were very, very long. But yeah, he gets off my leg, it's one of those things. People always say, your leg's broken, or a bone's broken when it's broken because it hurts so much. Yeah. I actually wasn't sure it was broken. Like it didn't hurt as much as I thought it would.
Probably adrenaline.
But so that's just it. So I was in super adrenaline shock, and suddenly I realized it's pitch black, like it was nighttime, and suddenly I'm starting to think that the floor looks very comfortable, and I just want to go to sleep. But then I'm like, okay, Probably not the best idea. So yeah, that the roads. To answer your original question, you definitely have to
Pay
be
attention.
careful. Like,
Pay
yeah,
attention.
like there'll be lampposts in the middle of the road sometimes. Just poor planning, basically. Like,
Yeah, like if you're in the Western mindset, you'll hit them because you won't be looking for them.
yeah.
Head up. I remember one time I was in Thailand with a friend called Tamo. He's from Estonia, and we ride along the road there, the back of a pack. We're going to Dointon, and he kept looking at me as he's talking, and he was at the time a pretty new cyclist, and I was about to say to him, hey, just keep your eyes at the road and just angle your mouth at me, and I was waiting for him to finish talking, and this chicken ran out in the road. And I saw it coming, so I hit the brakes. Everyone hit the brakes, but Tamo didn't. And he was a sort of big dude, and he just smashed in the rider in front, and they're just like, we're doing maybe 40 or 50k an hour, hooking along, and then he just hits the ground, busts his collarbone. And I was just about to tell him, hey, look forward, But now I've learned I interrupt people, say, hey, I'll just blank cold cut them off and say, hey, look ahead, man, look ahead. But yeah, so you just you didn't see you just got to pay attention, don't you? Just got to pay attention.
Yeah, so like. That storm drain is actually on my commute, and I'd only been here for like a month or whatever. And so the first time I'm riding down that road, I see it and I bunny hop it.
Yeah.
And then the next day I bunny hop it as well, bunny hop it. But then one day you're like, oh, I wonder if I can just go over it at an angle.
Yeah.
So I started just going over it at an angle, so your tires don't go in the grill.
Yeah.
And that was fine. And then I started going, well, what if I just go over it just normally? Will it actually get stuck? And it wasn't getting stuck. So you get more and more confident. And then one day you go in at slightly the wrong angle or whatever, and it just gets you.
But I hit one of those drains.
When I went back, when I went back after the fact, what it was, so the drain actually stretches across the whole road, most of it is your wheel can't get stuck in just because the way the pieces of metal are arranged.
Smart,
but the like 50 centimeter strip where I was, they'd replaced it with a different type of drain, or they'd put it upside down or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, it could catch my wheel.
That's an example. Like road conditions can just change one day from the next.
Yeah.
That's I hit a storm drain like that when I was a bicycle courier back in 1998. Come around a corner and there was a new drain. And it had the slats the wrong way, and my front wheel just got sucked in, and I just got bucked over the bars and slammed face first into the ground. And did some bit of dental chipping. But learned my lesson. Always pay attention and don't think the road's going to be the same every day. It's cycling teaches us a lot of lessons. Number one, pay attention in life. And wear a helmet.
Especially when stuff's mundane, like.
Yeah. Because
that was the thing. It was just my commute, and you do it again and again and again.
Yep.
So you just start switching off. You don't think about it. Yeah. And I think that's like you say. That's like life. Every day you do the same job. You do the same routine. You don't think about it, and before you know, you're 50 or 60 years old or whatever. Yep. So.
It's true, man. It's so true. Probably one of the worst crashes I ever had on the bike was when I worked at a bike shop back in 2003 called Bicycle Express, and it was a great place to work at back in the day. And I remember just riding out the front door of the bike shop on my lunch break, going to go to the fruit market, get some bananas or whatever, or some melon, and they'd done some footpath work on the weekend, and there was this gap in the footpath, and I'd done this like hundreds of times, and so I just hooked this corner. And my front wheel just got in the gap, and I just got bucked and slammed my face and ribs onto the gutter. And I was like, "What the heck happened?" And my front wheel was like still, it was crazy. So you just never know when you're going to hit the deck. Always wear a helmet, wear gloves, and have insurance if you're overseas. So you have insurance, I assume.
Yeah. Had insurance, but. So speaking of Cookie Man, I don't know if you've been keeping up with his
people sent me. He's had
shenanigans.
some issues with his insurance in the US after that big crash last year, and
which is crazy.
Yeah, that's the USA. It's
I don't want to go political, but that's mind blowing.
Yeah, it is a crazy world. It's like. It's crazy. But if you're a homeless person in the USA, you'd be covered for that, wouldn't you? Because they're not just going to dump you in the street. It's almost like you want to be homeless if you want to be a bike racer. At least you'll be covered that way.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, if Cookie Man didn't have any money, or if his mum wasn't loaded like she is, then he would be, wouldn't have to pay. But because he's got money and his mum's got money, then he'll have to fight it. But if you're just homeless, the hospital just has to waive that because you got no money. So yeah, it's an interesting reality out there. What's those? I can see some. I mean, I can see some zip wheels in the background there. Are they copies or legit or?
So the bottom one's legit.
So
the top one is not legit.
Yeah,
the top one was the bottom one's just a 30. It's the aluminium one.
Oh yeah, this is 30. Yeah.
Yeah, the top one, the 808, was the very first like fake Chinese bike thing I got.
Yeah.
And a friend brought it for me.